Welcome to the weekly news broadcast of church crime that has occurred in the last week. We've got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about terrorism updates going on here in the United States. We're going to talk about the DHS warning about terrorist exploitation of migrant flows, how that affects churches. We're going to talk about a new FBI and DHS public announcement on an imminent threat to churches in the United States. We got lots of crimes against persons to talk about, including a man that was arrested for assaulting a woman in a church parking lot just before services, a church leader arrested for domestic violence, 2 injured people from a shooting in Athens, Tennessee, tons of sex crimes committed by people working at the church, and a lot of property crimes. And we're going to talk about some overseas crimes that are occurring that are super important to talk about, including terrorists targeting and killing Christians in Africa. All right, with that said, let's jump into this week's news. Again, we are at threat condition red, which is severe or an imminent threat of attack. There is a lot of stuff going on with that. Look, the biggest reason why I chose to move us up to red, meaning imminent threat of attack, is because, of course, the October 7th anniversary of Israel being attacked by Hamas. And we know that terrorists love anniversaries, so we know that there's a possibility of attacks due to that. Now, look, the threat for October 7th, I think, is more going to be lone wolf actor type incidents. We do have a ton of al-Shabaab, ISIS, and Hezbollah agents in the United States, along with Iranian agents. So we should all be looking and keeping track of what is going on with Iran right now. I think the biggest threat, though, is going to occur if America and the United States join Israel against a war against Iran. Then I think all those people are going to be activated and there are going to be problems. I've covered that at length in other videos, so I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want to know more, go back at the last couple of videos I've done. It's been a very active couple of days with that. I don't believe in coincidences. The DHS put out information just the other day in this Homeland threat assessment where they said that terrorists are using migrant flows coming across the border to infiltrate terrorists into the United States. This just got published this week. Again, I don't believe in coincidences. I think the federal government knows something is going to happen. They are unable to stop it. And so they're pushing this information out so that they have deniability of like, look, we've done everything that we can, except, of course, close the border and keep the terrorists from coming here in the first place. But it does appear that the current administration dislikes America so much they're letting people invade our country so they can do harm to you and our churches. Also, another thing to talk about as well is this very poorly written public service announcement from the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Homeland Security. Now, again, I did a separate video on this, but just to rehash, the FBI and DHS issued this public service announcement tied to the anniversary of October 7th, Hamas attacks against Israel, and it highlights the potential for a terrorist threat in the United States. Now, despite this warning, the advisory did not specifically mention Christian churches as targets, even though previous intelligence has identified them as key points of concern for foreign terrorist organizations like ISIS. Now, Christian churches continue to be viewed as high-value targets by groups like ISIS, yet the omission in this bulletin reflects a pattern of downplaying with this ongoing risk. Now, the link to the original bulletin is attached to my weekly newsletter. If you're not getting it, go over to christianwarriortraining.com. I give it out for free. The information is from me to you as a fellow follower of Christ to help protect your church. All right, we're going to move on off of terrorism updates. We're going to move into some crimes against persons, which is violent crime. There was a man that was arrested for assaulting a woman in a Palestine church parking lot. That was James Riley Marks, 23. Let me show you a picture of him real quick. That's him right there. And he was arrested on the 27th for assaulting a woman in the parking lot of a Southside Baptist church in Palestine, Texas. Witnesses reported seeing Marks pull into the church parking lot and assault a woman in the back seat of a vehicle. Police located the vehicle shortly afterward, and Marks was taken into custody despite resisting arrest. Shouldn't resist arrest. You're going to get it. All right. He's being held in Anderson County Jail on charges of family violence, assault, which is domestic violence, and resisting arrest with no bond set. No bond is awesome, means he can't bail out. Now, domestic violence does come to our churches, And the best thing you can do is separate the parties away from each other and let police handle the investigation. Now, it's going to be very heated. And sometimes the other party's going to turn against you because they feel like, you're going to split the family up. So I often like telling the main aggressor, which is not always the male. It all goes both ways. Males and females are the primary aggressors, that they're in God's house and this isn't the appropriate place for them to do what they're doing. And I tell them to move to a different location away from the church meeting. I tell that primary aggressor to move away to a different location. And I walk with them and say, come this way. We're in God's house. Let's come over here and let's talk. And then we separate them. I would not leave them together. This separates them from the other party and it usually cools them down from there. Again, do call the police and let them handle the call, because I'm sure that this domestic violence is always an ongoing crime, meaning it's always happening. And we've got to help whoever the victim is, whether it's male or female, especially if there's children involved. Next up, we got a church outreach leader in Collin County that was arrested for family violence, which again is domestic violence. David Scarberry is a 53-year-old evangelistic outreach leader at Revival City Church in McKinney, Texas. He was arrested on charges of continuous violence against the family. This charge relates to 2 or more instances of family violence within a 12-month period. Scarberry, who has a criminal history in Oklahoma involving drug and weapons charges, was held in the Collin County Jail, but has since been released on bond. Now, while details about the victim were not disclosed, Scarberry has denied the current allegations, calling them false accusations. He previously faced a domestic abuse protective order filed by his ex-wife in 1994. Now, this is my reminder to you that you need to be doing background checks on all of your staff and volunteers. I've written a great article about it that you can see right here. So you need to uncover prior criminality of anybody that you hire or bring on as volunteers so that you can make informed decisions about their position in the church and whether you want them alone with vulnerable adults and children. Now, there are warning signs in this guy's past that should send alarm bells. Although it was 30 years ago, you should still be concerned, right? Now, we believe in forgiveness and we believe in grace, but that doesn't mean that you're going to leave them alone with women and children, or you're going to set up some kind of a program of monitoring to make sure that those people are going to be okay. Again, we want people to repent for their sins and we want them to show forgiveness, but that doesn't mean that you let your guard down. So go do that background check. I've shown everything on how to do that in this article here, everything you need to know about church background checks. You can find that. It's linked into my weekly newsletter, which if you go to the description below, it'll take you to that. So you can sign up. I don't spam you. It's just me. Next up, we got a shooting in Athens, Tennessee in a church parking lot, or just outside of a church. Now, police in Athens, Tennessee are investigating the shooting. That occurred near North Athens Baptist Church on Tellico Avenue on the morning of September 30th. 2 individuals were injured and transported to a local hospital for treatment. Authorities have identified possible suspects and persons of interest, but are still working to locate them. Now, look, people that are fleeing danger are often going to go to churches for sanctuary. Even if the church is closed, they're still going to go there because it's ingrained in our survival instinct that God is going to protect us. Sometimes God is leading them there. So with that said, danger has a chance of coming to you, to your church. So I want you to be vigilant to what is happening outside of your church while you're inside worshiping. Just keep peeking a look outside. My recommendation is if you're working church security while people are inside, a lot of people like to hang out inside the door they're watching because it's comfortable. You have air conditioning, a heater, like whatever, and your friends are there and you like having that conversation. I recommend you move out to the parking lot in front of that door because the danger is going to come from the parking lot. You can see them come in. If somebody's getting shot up, you can either go out and rescue them if you feel that is appropriate. If that is not appropriate, and you don't want to get involved in that, you can come back into the church, lock it down, secure your people inside to a place that preferably won't get hit by bullets that might go astray and hit your people. We're going to move on to sex crimes now. This is the part that's really bothering me. There are a lot of sex crimes in each issue that I put out each week, almost always committed by somebody employed by the church, the pastor, a volunteer, somebody. It's bothering me because we spend a lot of time dealing with active shooter and crimes of violence and time at the range. I'm not minimizing that. I think that's important. But we will spend no time on looking for predators within a church or dealing with sex crimes that occur in our church, even though you're more likely to have your pastor sexually abuse somebody in your church than you are to have an active shooter. That is a horrible thing they're both horrible. They're both horrible things to think, but that's the fact. And so we need to spend a little bit more time dealing with predators and sexual abusers and training our people for that than we do for that active shooter scenario. We're going to train for both, but the more likely one we need to train for a little bit more. All right. First, we're going to talk about this pastor that was arrested for transferring nude photos of a congregant's wife without his consent. All right. Even if he had consent, that's still wrong. Okay. Just to be clear. All right. So a pastor at Journey Church in Kenosha, Wisconsin, was arrested after allegedly sending intimate photos of a church member's wife to his own phone during a church meeting. Now, the incident occurred on September 22nd when the pastor borrowed the husband's phone under pretense of assisting him with downloading an audiobook. Police say the pastor used the AirDrop feature to transfer private images without consent. Now, after the couple discovered unusual activity on the phone, they contacted authorities. The pastor was arrested on September 30th, charged with 2 felony counts, and subsequently fired from his position at the church. Now, look, I can't believe I need to give this advice to you, but I see this problem pop up quite often. Now, don't put anything in your phone that you don't want your mom to see. Now, I used to say, don't put anything in your phone that you don't want your pastor to see, but now you can see why I am just going to leave it at your mom at this point. Now, from pornographic photos to text exchanges that involve racism, hatred, or whatever, your phone is never secure. Never. I can't tell you how many phones that I've searched in my career as a law enforcement officer. Each one had stuff you would never want anyone else to see. I've also had hackers show me how easy it was for them to access somebody's phone. Most of it through social engineering, like what this pastor did to his congregant. Really think about whether you want somebody borrowing your phone. And I know you probably thought, well, it's my pastor, I can trust him. Not if you have stuff like that on your phone. All right, next up. Got Arkansas pastor arrested for possessing child sexual abuse materials. Now, Rocky Goodwin, he's an 86-year-old lead pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in Warren, Arkansas, was arrested and charged with multiple offenses related to sexual abuse materials. The investigation, which began in April 2023 following cyber tips from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, led authorities to execute a search warrant at Goodwin's home in May of 2024. Investigators seized several devices containing over 70 images of child sexual abuse materials. Despite the evidence, Goodwin denies any involvement. His bail set at $150,000, and his arraignment took place in September, which raised concerns within the community as he continued preaching after his arrest. If your preacher is arrested for anything serious, they should be put on administrative leave until the case is adjudicated. It's possible for someone to spoof your IP address and download child porn, making people believe it's you. However, if child porn is found on your device, then it's pretty hard to claim that it was somebody else. With that said, he cannot keep preaching until you do an investigation and make a determination. Churches have serious issues with sex crimes. We just talked about that. You want to let your pastor continue letting your pastor continue after an arrest just makes us as Christians lose credibility, and it keeps future followers of Christ from finding salvation. This issue of sex in the church, sex crimes in the church, is keeping people from coming to church and finding Christ. We have got to do better and to stop this. I don't think it's an epidemic, but I think it's a problem that we are ignoring and not addressing. And a lot of these crimes can be prevented by having good policy that talks about never being alone with children and vulnerable adults, and then doing comprehensive background checks where we look into somebody's past to make sure that they're not a predator. In a lot of cases I profile here each week, you simply have to do a Google check, like a Google search on the person's name, and you will see that stuff come up. Now, look, we should be thankful right now. There are no reported arsons. Normally we go into arson. There's no reported arsons in the United States on churches this week. Thank the Lord. However, Canada is not so lucky. When we go to international stories, we're going to talk about all of the arsons that are occurring at churches in Canada. That's coming up. Today's video is sponsored by Ridge. Now, Ridge sent me this wallet, but here's the thing. I've actually been using a Ridge wallet for over a year, and I absolutely love it. There's no more bulky wallet in my back pocket. This thing fits right in my front pocket, making it way more comfortable, and it's great for avoiding those pesky pickpockets. Now, there's also some RFID blocking technology, which is a total game changer for me. It protects my cards and keeps my personal information safe from electronic pickpocketing. Now, if you're looking for a sleek, secure wallet, go check out the Ridge wallet. Next up, we got a guy. He was an assault suspect. He's in custody and charged with vandalizing a Coral Springs church sign. Now, Tevin Talbert, he's a 30-year-old man from Lauderhill, Florida, already in custody for an unrelated assault charge, has been charged with vandalizing the sign at Living Word Christian Center in Coral Springs. Now, on September 21st, Coral Springs police were alerted to missing letters from the church's sign. Footage from a nearby camera showed Talbert damaging the sign on 2 occasions by kicking and then discarding letters. Talbert, who was on probation from a previous grand theft auto case, now faces additional charges while remaining in custody at Broward County Main Jail. Not a serious charge. I put this in here because, not really a serious crime, but the reason why I put it in here is church safety team members are going to see that crime and go like, yeah, I'm going to go contact that guy. I want you to think twice. This guy is a criminal. Alleged criminal. And I think it's important to note that if you don't have to worry about the person escaping, you can keep an eye on them. You should just call the police, call 911. It is a crime in progress, so call 911 whenever you have a crime in progress, even if it's small. They'll put you on hold if they think they need to do some triage. And then officers are going to get sent right away. And when they get sent, unless you're like Oakland or LA or San Francisco or something, that might be delayed. But if you live in normal America, cops will get sent pretty quickly and let them go off on them, because if they resist and start fighting you, that's a whole nother problem. And they're equipped to deal with that. And they have the authority to use force and stop that person. Certainly you could use force to stop them, but it gets a little muddied up. Just let the cops deal with it. All right, next up, we got an elderly couple that was scammed by a fraudster posing as a church member in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Now, they lost over $32,000 after being targeted by a scammer pretending to be a trusted peer from their church. The fraudster contacted the couple through Facebook, claiming they could qualify for a federal grant for up to $150,000. Posing as a government official, the scammer convinced them to purchase Apple product gift cards to cover processing fees between September 6th and the 17th. Now, the couple sent serial numbers from these gift cards before realizing the scam. Now, the couple reported the fraud to the police, but were only able to recover $700 with little hope of retrieving the remaining funds. Now, seniors are very susceptible to fraudsters. Now, there are numerous online courses that you can give to your seniors at church. Now, I suggest you find one and give it to them and train them. Never pay for anything in gift cards. Nobody does that. That's not a real thing. It's always going to be a scam if they're asking you for gift cards. Never give money to anybody online unless it's from a verified source. Like when I give you a link to Pastor Clemmy's donation account. Pastor Clemmy, I put information out about him. He was a pastor in Memphis that was shot. And you guys gave so much money. It was beautiful, helping him with his hospital bills and everything else that came up. Look, I verified all that. I hope that you trust me. And then I put that out to you. It seems like we can all trust that. But some dude that calls you and says he's with your church and says, give me some gift cards to cover this cost. That's not real. Next up, Sherman Oaks, California church was targeted in a series of vandalism incidents, and that's been occurring over the last 2 months, and what authorities are investigating as possible hate crime. The most recent act occurred on the 28th when the church's statue was defaced with black spray paint. Previous incidents include setting fire to the statue's base and spray painting the word chomo, which is a slang term for child molester, on it. Now, the church rectory was also targeted with a window being set on fire. Local authorities are still searching for suspects, and the church plans to increase security measures to prevent further attacks. Now, every week, I remind you, you need an alarm, a burglar alarm, and a fire alarm, and a 4K video system. I repeat it every week, and there's still multiple churches that don't even have a burglar alarm or a fire alarm. Get the burglar alarm and the fire alarm first when you have enough money. Get that 4K video system. If you're a small church and can't afford it, maybe there is somebody there that will be a benefactor that will pay the bill so that you guys can do that. It's super important. On to Illinois, we've got a pastor facing felony loan fraud charges, and he was dismissed from the church. Now, Emmett Williams III is a former pastor of Springfield Missionary Baptist Church in Evanston, Illinois. He was arrested on October 1st on charges of felony loan fraud. Williams allegedly secured 3 unauthorized mortgage loans totaling $178,000 on the church's property between April and December of 23. Without trustees' knowledge, his employment was terminated in January of 24 for breaches of fiduciary duties, including unauthorized financial actions. Now, Williams now faces up to 15 years in prison and a potential fine of $25,000 if he's convicted. His next court appearance is October 2nd. I'll keep repeating this over and over. You need to have multiple eyes on your church books, and you have to have regular audits just to keep everybody honest. Now, if you go over to christianwarriortraining.com, I have plenty of articles over there that teach you for free how you're going to secure all your church offerings, how you're going to keep your books straight, how you're going to keep fraud from occurring within your church. All right, now we're going to move on to our international stories. We got Fulani terrorists that are continuing to target Christians in Nigeria. The people in Nigeria are getting slaughtered by the Islamic militants over there. Now, Islamist Fulani terrorists in Nigeria, they're persisting in kidnapping, torturing, and killing Christians. And that's according to a recent report. Now, in September, 9 family members of a former Southern Kaduna People's Union leader were kidnapped with ransoms demanded by the terrorists. Now, this is part of a broader pattern of violence affecting predominantly Christian communities, particularly in Kajuro and Kachia counties. Now, in one instance, Fulani terrorists attacked a Catholic church during Mass, killing one and kidnapping others. Now, despite pleas for military assistance, local forces have reportedly refused to intervene. This has been going on a long time with the government and military not helping the Christians. Now, the ongoing violence is labeled as a form of jihad, and it continues to devastate Christian communities in the region. I would like to call out to all the Nigerians that follow this newsletter, and it looks like there are several hundred of you that are following me, including several hundred of you that follow me here on my YouTube channel. Now, I want to reach out to you, and I want to ask if you can contact me and work out safety plans for your people. I think we can solve this pretty easy, not easily, but there's a little bit of work that needs to be done, but I think I can help you. I just want you to reply to any of those emails that I send over at Christian Warrior Training, and just reply to it and then let me know where you're from, and then we'll work it out from there. Now, I have a lot of followers with experience working in Africa fighting the people that are attacking you. These are people from our special operations community that very much dislike the people attacking you, and they've reached out to me telling me they would like to help you. So we can definitely help you in keeping all your people safe. We can make that happen. All right. We're going to move on to these suspicious fires that are going on at churches in Canada right now. Now, I did a live stream because I'm just running out of money, and I did a live stream about this particular church right here just a couple days ago. Now, the Morinville RCMP, they're investigating this fire right here that destroyed a Roman Catholic church on the Alexander First Nation, which is northwest of Edmonton. The fire was reported around 12:40 in the morning. You know what? I'm sorry. Let me back up. That is not this fire that you see here. The fire I'm talking about now is separate from this one I did a live stream on. My apologies. There is so many arsons going on. So let's go back. I'll talk about this one in a minute. But the one that we're talking about now from the newsletter. Now, this fire was reported around 12:40 a.m. on the 30th, and fire crews from Alexander First Nation in Sturgeon County in Morinville arrived. The church was fully engulfed in flames and suffered a total loss. Now, this one over here that I'm showing on my live, this is from a live stream I did. Now, this one over here, that one was just a couple days ago. I live streamed it just because I don't have enough time to do like a full nice video on it. That one, they're still investigating, but it kind of looked like an arson to me. It had some arson vibes to it. Now, look, Canada has had a spate of church arsons that are going back for the last few years. Now, churches in Canada, I really advise you need a burglar and a fire alarm. A burglar alarm is going to go off when they break in to start the fire, and then the fire alarm is going to go off. Most of these dispatch centers get both alarms, and the one person monitoring can see both the alarms come in, and they know I got a burglar alarm and now a fire alarm. Somebody just broke in and lit a fire in that church. And then now you are going to get everybody, because that is the biggest thing going on in that area probably. You cannot be at your church 24/7. So you're going to need some fire suppression devices along with that fire alarm to minimize the level of damage that's going to happen to your church. I will be putting in more information about these Canadian church fires as they start evolving and start coming out. There's a lot of thoughts about why they're happening. And in my live stream, you see some of the Canadians in there talking about some of the issues going on, why that's occurring. And I think it's pretty deep. I think there are a couple of different things happening. So we'll be talking a bit about that more and more as the months go by. All right, my friends, what I want you to do when you leave here, besides signing up at Christian Warrior Training so you can get free training, free intelligence, and that newsletter, things are evolving super quickly right now with the terrorism threat in the United States and Canada. If you follow me over at Christian Warrior Training, I constantly put out updates right now. I did 2 yesterday, 1 the day before that. It's pretty much every day. Go follow me over there and then hit the notification bell for the YouTube channel here. Hit subscribe, hit that notification bell so that way when I do a live stream, it notifies you right away. If I'm doing a live stream, that means something bad is happening right now and you might want to listen. I want you to pray unceasingly for the safety of your church, everybody's church, and all Christians around the world. I want you to pray for God to give you the discernment to find the people that are coming to your church to do harm. And I also like you to remember your ABCs. Always be caring.